The inventory system I'm about to show you will work for you no matter where you're selling items online, whether it's Poshmark, eBay, Mesquite, Etsy, your own website, or anywhere else. And it will work even if you have just 100 items, over 500 items like me, or thousands of items to manage. There are a lot of moving parts to this setup which can make it seem daunting, but I am going to break everything down in detail for you. And once you grasp the method and you implement it, you'll see how easy it actually is to use and to maintain on the day-to-day basis, which will help you with the ultimate goal of keeping your reselling business organized and running smoothly. I'm going to start off by sharing the 6 physical and digital components that make up this inventory management system, and in the second part of the video I'll show you how all of these pieces come together to help me find items quickly and to track my sales. The first thing you're going to need to make all of this work is a few shelves. I went with these 6-tier black shelves. They are adjustable. When you first assemble them, you can adjust the height of these shelves so that you can make it fit the box or the bins that you're using. I got a total of 3 of these shelves and I got them on Amazon for about $100 each. Below all of my videos, I do have a link to an Amazon store that I have set up. If you click that link, it will take you to that store where you can browse all the reselling supplies that I use and I recommend. So these are going to be linked there, as well as many of the other things I talk about in this video. The only drawback with these shelves is that it only fits 2 of the type of boxes that I use, so it does leave me with quite a bit of extra empty space right here on the side. When I was barely looking for shelves to use, I was really trying to find a shelf that would either fit 2 boxes or at least 3 boxes precisely, but that was very hard to find. I couldn't find any anywhere. This is the best that I could do. I either needed to switch my boxes to accommodate the shelf or just live with the extra empty space. I already had too many boxes filled up, so I just went ahead and used these, and I'll make use of this empty space. I use it to put some shoe boxes that I get from time to time. Sometimes these brown boxes have a little bit of overflow, so I'll use this extra space to store the extra items. I sell long knee-high and riding boots, which are these right here, and I just stack them on the shelf on the extra space sometimes as well. If I could go back, I would do things differently, so learn from my mistakes. When you're looking for a storage solution, keep in mind that the ultimate goal of all this is to maximize space. So when you're looking for a container to put your items in, you have to make sure that it works well with the shelves you intend to use. Another thing that I learned the hard way is that there is a difference between the outer dimensions of the shelves and the inner dimensions. You have to make sure you know the outer dimensions so that you'll know if it's going to fit well in the place where you're going to be using the shelves, but then you also need to know the precise measurements of the inner dimensions of the shelves so that you know if your boxes or bins or whatever you're going to use are going to fit well inside. And it all has to do with these poles right here. They do take up a little bit of room. Some sites will put both dimensions on the details page for you, but some sites will only give you the dimensions of the outside. But it's important to also know the inner usable dimensions. Let's talk about that next part, the containers you're going to use to put your items in. There are several options that I know of. There's the regular boxes, there's what they call banker boxes, and then the good old plastic bins. As you can see here, I decided to go with what I call boxes, but actually the technical term for these is corrugated catering trays. If you just Google that term, you'll find many websites that sell these. The site that I went with is called webstaurant.com. I paid about $70 after shipping for 25 of these boxes, so that equals out to about $2.80 a piece, which I think is a lot cheaper than buying plastic bins. I've had these boxes for about 2 to 3 years now, and they've remained intact. I've never had one rip or get damaged, except when I was moving about 6 months ago. Some of them did get crushed, but I think that's bound to happen when you're doing a big move. But at that time, since I did have all of these boxes off the shelves, I took the opportunity to go ahead and put some duct duct tape all along the seams of every box. This brown strip right here that you see is actually duct tape. So that is something I recommend you do from the get-go. If you decide to use corrugated boxes, go ahead and add some duct tape along the trims so that you can ensure that they last that much longer. There's a few things you want to keep in mind as you're deciding what boxes or bins to go with. One of the things is just how many items of the things you sell are going to fit in these boxes. This size right here worked out great for me because it fits anywhere from 16 to 20 shoes depending on the size. When it's sandals, you could probably fit a little bit more in there. But for me, that's not too much or too little, because one of the other things you want to consider is how heavy that container is going to be once it's filled with items. You are going to be taking these things on and off of shelves, sometimes from higher shelves, so you don't want to end up with something that's too heavy for you to carry. Another thing you want to consider here is the actual height of the box or the bin you're going to use. One of the reasons I chose these boxes is because they're tall enough to securely hold all of these shoes, but also short enough for me to be able to see the SKU numbers on each of them at a glance. So go ahead and measure the height of the tallest type of item that you sell and make sure that the containers you get match up and line up just right so that you're able to see all your SKU numbers, because as you'll see in part 2 of this video, being able to see your SKU numbers quickly will make it that much faster and easier for you to pick out these items when they sell. Once you have your shelves and the containers that you're going to use, the next important thing is having some storage bags. I like to keep all of my items stored in these clear poly bags right here, and I do that for several reasons. One of them being that it's where the SKU number will stick to, but also they just stay clean and ready to be shipped, so it makes that part of the reselling process a whole lot faster. The third reason is because a critical part of maintaining this file type storage system that I'm showing you is that as items sell, you're going to be scooting all of the items over, and that is just much easier to do when you can grab a bunch of bags at once to scoot them over. And I'll demonstrate more in detail how this works later on in the video. There are 3 different size clear bags that I use. The first one is this one right here. It is a 12 by 15 bag, and it just has this adhesive that you take off when you put the item in there. I use these bags for regular size shoes like tennis shoes, dress shoes, sandals, smaller shoes like that. The next size bag I use is this one right here, and this one is a 13 by 15 size bag. This one is more of a Ziploc type bag. It is only 1 inch wider than the previous one I showed you, but that extra inch goes a long way, and it helps me fit chunkier shoes in here, like hiking boots, ankle boots, and just thicker platform shoes. And the last type of bag I use is this very large bag. This one right here is 18 by 24. This has no sort of closure to it. I didn't mean to buy these. I like more the ones that have the adhesive or the zipper, so once I run out of these, I am going to order the other type. But these large bags I use for my knee-high boots, and when I was selling more purses and they were larger, that's what I would use these long bags for. Also with clothing, sometimes the jackets and the plus size pieces will fit nicely in these size bags. Now let's talk about what's at the heart of this whole inventory system, and that is stock keeping unit numbers, also known as SKU numbers. A SKU is a unique number you give each of your items, and it is what you'll use to identify each individual item across all platforms and everywhere where these items will be. So on any reselling platform you use, any spreadsheets you use to track your sales, and any inventory management systems you use to manage your reselling business, and of course right here in these inventory boxes. There are many ways of creating a SKU number system. I chose to go with an alphanumeric sequential system. So that means that there's letters and there's numbers, and they are filed in sequence by their SKU number from smallest to biggest. The letter tells me what category the item is. So in my case, it's just what type of shoe it is. But if you're selling clothing, a letter can stand for whether it's jeans, shorts, a dress, dress or a top, or you could just do one letter for clothing and another for shoes. It's really up to you how specific or how broad you want to go with your SKU number system. I started off very specific. I had my items organized by very specific categories, and I was using way too many letters. But I quickly realized that is not practical and it is definitely not efficient. So I have simplified things over time, and now my SKU system is a lot more general and I only use 4 letters. I use the letter A for long knee-high and thigh-high boots. The letter B is for short ankle boots, and then the letter D is for all other kinds of shoes. And I do have the letter F for consignment items, which I don't do much of anymore, but when I do, I like to keep those items separate from my own inventory, so I created a letter for that. And as for the number part of the SKU, that is just going to help you keep things organized in numerical order. I started off each letter at 001 and I've just been going up from there. I keep all of my SKU number sheets in this green binder right here. As you can see in these divider labels on the side, here are all the letters I used to use, but now I just use these A's, these B's, and D's right here, and sometimes the F's. When I see that I'm running low on these sheets, I will just come to the very front of the binder here where I have blank label sheets ready to go. I'll look at the last number of my SKU sheet. This one is D1789, so that is where I would begin this new sheet at. I would do D1790. The great thing about this SKU method is that it can go to basically infinity, which makes it very scalable. As you grow, it'll grow with you. Letter D's is what I list the most of, and with that SKU I did reach D999, but that was not a problem because then I switched over to D1-001 and I've been going up from there. The max I can get to with that SKU is going to be D1-999, and when that happens, I just plan to switch it to D2-001. And in the future, if the numbers get too long and complicated, I do always have the option of switching letters instead. So those 4 components, the shelves, the boxes, the bags, and the SKUs, are the physical parts that keep this system going. The final 2 I'm going to talk about are the digital components that help me track all of these items when I list them and when they sell. One of those digital softwares that I use is this right here, List Perfectly. It is what I use to not only cross post but also to manage my inventory. Right here on the main menu homepage, I'm going to click into my listings, and that is going to bring us to this page where I bulk upload all of my items along with the pictures, the titles, the descriptions, and most importantly, the SKU numbers. Later on in the video, I am going to show you a little bit more in detail how I create these listings here in List Perfectly and where I add the SKU numbers. For now, I just want to give you a quick overview of how this works and how it translates into having these SKU numbers into my platforms. When you're ready to list your items on your selling platforms, all you have to do is select this green arrow button on the top left hand side. Select the items that you want to go ahead and put up for sale, and then click the green arrow button again. Select the platforms you want to move these items to. For me right now, it's Poshmark and eBay. Go ahead and click copy, and what that is going to do is tell List Perfectly to copy all of your items information over to your selling platforms, including that SKU number. On Poshmark, you'll be able to find it here at the very bottom under additional details, and on eBay it will be right here right below your title. And then when an item actually sells, you'll be able to also find that SKU number on your order pages. On eBay, under orders, you'll be able to see it right below each item under custom SKU. And on Poshmark, on each order page, you'll also see your SKU number. Having that SKU number attached to my eBay and Poshmark orders will not only help me find that item quickly here in my inventory when it sells, but it will also help me track that item in my inventory spreadsheet, which is the 6th essential part of this whole setup. I use Google Sheets for all of my spreadsheets, and here's what my reselling business spreadsheet looks like. At the bottom, you can see all of the sheets that are within this spreadsheet. I use it to track all sorts of business numbers, but the only two tabs that I use on the daily basis is this inventory sheet and this platform sales sheet right here. Every item in those brown boxes on my shelves is documented here into this inventory tab as soon as it's cross-listed from List Perfectly to my platforms. When something sells, I then will come here to my inventory sheet and move that item over to this tab that's right next to it, the platform sales. This may seem like a lot of work to do to fill out all of this information, but it's really not. Later on in the video, I will show you how I copy and paste everything into these sheets. I bought that spreadsheet from Jason Hayes, who's another reseller YouTuber. He has many different versions of it. The basic one starts at about $15 and it'll go up from there depending on what numbers you want to keep track of. I will leave his channel linked in the description of this video. There you can go check out the spreadsheets, and he also has lots of videos with demos on how to use them and how to use Google Sheets. So those are the 6 physical and digital parts that keep this alphanumeric sequentially ordered system working properly. But to further cement things and to answer some lingering questions you may have, I'm going to show you what it actually looks like in action by sharing my 7-step routine and some maintenance tips that I do to keep the system running smoothly. First things first, in order to execute the system effectively, for me it starts as soon as I come home with new inventory. I take the time to separate everything into categories. In this corner over here, we have all of the long boots. Then we have 3 containers right here. First one being a pile of nothing but short booties. Then we have sneakers and dress shoes, followed by any heels and sandals in this box. And the reason I like to start off there is because whenever possible, I like to do what's called task batching. And in this case, that basically means I prep, I photograph, and list about 40 to 50 items at a time. And as we continue moving through the rest of the steps, you're going to see how much easier that is to do if we sort them into similar piles first. When I see I'm running low on new items to list on List Perfectly, I start planning a batching session. The type of shoe I prep is going to depend on the season we're in at the moment. Right now, spring is around the corner, so I'm going to start by prepping the strappy heels and sandals first. Once I'm done prepping a batch of shoes, I move on to the next step, which is to photograph, add SKUs, and inventory all of the items. I thought about separating these 3 actions into different steps, but I do them all in one go, so I'm going to talk about them all in one go. These sandals I'm listing today fall into the D category, so that is the SKU sheet that I will have next to me as I'm taking pictures. I have them right by these poly bags that I use to bag the items. I will also need a few brown boxes by my photo setup so that I can inventory my items as I go. But first, I do need to check out my shelves to see if there are any D boxes that are already started. This right here is the last box that is a letter D that's on my shelf. As you can see right here, it does have a little bit of empty space, so I will take this one with me, put it by my photo setup so that I can fill this empty space before starting any new ones. Everything is ready to go. I will take the picture of my items right here in this little station. I will add it into a clear bag, attach a SKU on the bag. Right after, I will organize them into these brown boxes, starting with this one that has a little bit of empty space. As these boxes fill up, they will go right to this black shelf right here, and everything continues to stay in order by their numbers all along the way. Once all of the items are photographed, they're labeled with a SKU number, and they're up on my shelves, I can now move on to step number 3, which is listing all of these items. In this part, I'm going to be showing you how I take the SKU numbers of all of those items and add it to my my online stores. And I do start my listing process on List Perfectly, so that's how I'm going to be demonstrating it. But you definitely do not need List Perfectly in order to follow along. The principles that I share, the tips and techniques will work no matter where you start your listings. But if you're new to List Perfectly and you would like to try it out, I do have a discount code for you. Just type in the Mom Boss, all capital, all one word, into the discount code field on List Perfectly when you're signing up, and that will give you 30% off your first month. On the List Perfectly main menu page, I'm going to go ahead and select Add Listing. From here, I will minimize this window. I'll have List Perfectly open on the right hand side and then my pictures open on the left hand side. I'm going to go ahead and list this item with you right here, these platform loafers. I uploaded every picture except the last two, which is the SKU number and the picture of the weight. These two pictures I take as I'm taking the pictures of my items only for reference so that I can create my listings, but I do not want them on my final listing once it goes live for sale, so I do not upload them here on List Perfectly. The next thing I will do is create a title, add my description, and I'll fill in the rest of the information on the side here as well. If I was listing on a selling platform that did not have the option to add a custom SKU, then it'd be at this point that I'd go ahead and add the custom SKU to the end of my description instead. So down here where I have my tags, one of them would be my SKU number, which for this one is D1761. Poshmark and eBay do have a space for custom SKUs, so for those platforms I go ahead and add it into this second section on this List Perfectly listing page. You'll see a spot to add your custom SKU, so that is where I would add mine. Another option you have when it comes to your SKU number, if you did not want to add it to your description, you could also add it to your keywords or tags. On Mercari and on Depop, for example, they ask for 5 tags. One of those tags could be your SKU number. So you can just add your SKU number here, and your other 4 hashtags could be actual keywords. Once your listing is done, just click Save and Exit to Catalog. And here's the item we just created along with the SKU number we gave to it. And like I showed you earlier, once you're ready to list it from List Perfectly over to your selling platforms, you'll just select the green arrow, select your platforms, click Copy, and that'll transfer over all of your information, including your description. So if you added your SKU there, you'll be able to see it on your platforms, and in your hashtags, if you added your SKU number there, it will get transferred as well. As I mentioned earlier, whenever possible, I really like to prep, photograph, and list a bunch of shoes all at once, but they do not get listed on my selling platforms that same day. They will sit and List Perfectly as drafts, and then every afternoon my daughter will go in and cross list anywhere from 7 to 10 items a day. And it is at that point when they go from List Perfectly to being live for sale on my platforms that she will go in, take the title of each item along with the SKU number, and add it to the spreadsheet. Let me show you how that works. On one side, we're going to have the spreadsheet open to the inventory tab, as you can see is selected down here. On this other side, we'll go ahead and click into my listings. If you have List Perfectly, you may notice that your page where all your listings are looks a little bit different than mine, and that is just because List Perfectly recently went through a major update, but I still have the old version set right now. The very first thing you want to do before you transfer your items from List Perfectly over to your tracking spreadsheet is click on this green arrow that says Created. That is going to organize these items in the order that I listed them here on List Perfectly. After that, we're going to scroll down and find the next blank one. And what I mean by that is this one right here is blank. This one right here has eBay and Poshmark links. That means those are already cross-listed. I want to begin my cross-listing at the next blank one, which is this one right here. Let's say I wanted to cross-list these next 4 items items right here. But before we do that, we always have to add it to our tracking spreadsheet. I'm going to go ahead and highlight the title of the first item, and in the inventory sheet on the next blank row, I'm going to double click and copy that right there. I'm going to click tab on my keyboard and put a number 1. That is just telling the spreadsheet that I only have one pair of these kind of shoes, and then we'll input the SKU D1770, and then we'll just do that for the rest of them. Go ahead and highlight and copy the title, double click into the spreadsheet, copy it, click 1, and you could also copy and paste the SKU if you'd like instead of typing it. I'm going to do that for these next 2 pair of shoes. And there are just 2 more pieces of information that we need to add to the spreadsheet. One of them is the date, and once you add it to one, you can just copy and paste it to the rest. I'm going to scroll over on the spreadsheet to get to the next piece of information we need to add, which is the cost of goods. I work by average cost of goods. I take everything I spend in one day and divide it by the number of shoes I brought home, and that is my cost of goods. So for me, the price is always going to be the one right above it unless I'm working on a new sourcing trip. So I'm just going to copy and paste that to the next 4 rows. And that is it with this spreadsheet for now. The next time we'll need it is when an item actually sells. But before we get to that part, let's go print the labels for the items that sold so I can show you what it looks like to pull them from these boxes. The first thing we have to do is click my profile picture up here, go down to my sales here on Poshmark, and then we're going to click on actions and we're going to select download shipping labels. Then we're going to select and click the blue download button, and that is going to prompt Poshmark to send these shipping labels over to my email. I have all of my labels ready to go. I really wish Poshmark would take notes from eBay and write the SKU number on the actual labels, but until they implement that change, what I do is just use the email they sent to me to write the SKU number on the back of each label. But to make pulling the items out even easier, when I have a lot of labels, what I like to do is put them in order to begin with. So I'll put in all my A's together and then all of my B's, and then put all of those in order from smallest to biggest, and that's just going to reduce the amount of back and forth you do. You'll just be able to go down each of the shelves and get all of the items that are within those shelves all in one go. The first SKU number I'm looking for is A331, which that's another great thing about the alphanumeric system. With the letter A, I at least know what shelf to start at. Right here are my A's. This bottom one is A330, so that must mean that the one on top of that is the one I need right now. Next we need B751, and that is going to be on this shelf over here, and I can see that it is this very front one right here. So I think you get the gist of it. I'm going to finish pulling the rest of these items and I'll be right back to show you what's next. After several days of pulling items, naturally you are going to end up with a lot of empty spaces in between items in all of these boxes. Later, I will show you how I deal with that, but the good thing is that your items will continue to stay organized and in order, even if you can't get around to fixing those empty spaces right away. I do ship all of my items in these plastic clear bags that I stored them in, which makes this shipping process a lot faster. But I am aware that that is a lot of waste. If you wanted to be more eco-friendly and save on business expenses, you could just use these Ziploc bags instead. And when an item sells, you just open it up, take out the item, wrap it in tissue paper, and then put it in a box. Then when you're ready to reuse these bags, you can just put the new SKU number label sticker on top of the old ones. So that's also an option and something I've seen other people do. But as of right now, I don't don't do it that way. Either way you do it, whether you reuse bags or not, you are going to save yourself a lot of time by storing your items in some sort of storage bag, because your items will be clean, neat, and ready to be shipped once it sells. Once an item is shipped and on its way to the buyer, I'm basically done with that item. To make things official, all I have to do is go to my spreadsheet to delete the item from the inventory section and move it over to the sold section of the spreadsheet. To record the sale and all the numbers, I'll reference the order page where the item sold. For eBay, you can find it by clicking on this order number right above the item. That will lead you to this page where you can see all of the information you're going to need to track this sale, which is the custom label SKU number and all of the fees involved. On Poshmark, again, we're going to click on my profile picture, scroll down to my sales, and from here I'll just right click and open each of these sales into a new tab, and then in those new tabs will be the order pages where I can see again the SKU number and all of the fees involved. And when it comes to the spreadsheet, what we have to do is go ahead and select the SKU number on one of the items, Control C to copy the SKU number, go ahead and select the inventory sheet on the spreadsheet, click Control F to bring up the search box, and then Control V to paste in that SKU number. That would lead me straight to the item on this inventory sheet. And then all I have to do is click this row number all the way to the left hand side. That will select the entire row for me. And then I can click Control X on my keyboard. That will delete this item from this inventory sheet. I will select the platform sales sheet, and on the next blank spot, I will start from the listed date little box here, select it and click Control V on my keyboard, and that will paste that item here on the platform sales sheet. I'll do that exact same thing for the rest of the items that sold, and then I'll show you the next steps. I have the items transferred over now. Next thing would be to fill in all of this missing information, and I'll use my order sheets right here on the right hand side to do so. We'll put in the month and year that these items sold, which is February 2024. I'll just copy and paste that. I'll put in what platform these items sold in, the date that these items sold. And if I scroll over here, you'll see the rest of the information that I need to put in, starting off with the sale price. Cost of goods will be there already from the previous sheet, the inventory sheet. That information gets transferred over. I'll document any shipping cost I may have had with the item, and then the platform fee. And once everything has been recorded, the last thing to do here is to click on actions, click on mark sold orders as shipped, select all of them. I'll just scroll through to make sure everything was boxed and ready to go, and then I'll click mark as shipped right here. To me, this just indicates that the item is packed and ready to be shipped the next day, and it just reduces the amount of confusion. I never have to wonder about what has been packed and what hasn't. But there is one more step that needs to be done in order to keep this inventory system working properly, and that is to consolidate inventory. This inventory system does not reuse SKUs. Every item gets a unique SKU number every time, which is great because you don't have to worry about organizing new inventory into a specific place. You'll just always know that it goes at the very end of the last box. But I do have to deal with the empty space that accumulates as items sell. So anytime I'm about to go shopping for new inventory, or when I'm about to prep a new batch of shoes, I will ask my son to come here and consolidate all of these boxes. Using this tool right here, he will start at the very top with the oldest inventory. He'll slightly pull out each of the boxes and combine them to get rid of all of that empty space. Since we just processed a batch of shoes recently, recently. All of these boxes are pretty consolidated, but I am going to take out a few of the boxes from the shelves to better visually demonstrate how this works. So here I have these 3 boxes, which are all the Sku with the letter D. Starting always with the oldest box. Right here you can see that it is D1506. There are 2 rows in each box. This one has a little bit of space, so I'm going to scoot all of the items forward and move the items that are on this next row to that side. So once I've moved all of the items over to this row to take care of the extra space, I have this much room in this box. So then what we're going to do is move the items over from this next box right here on the side over to this side to cover this extra space. And all along the way, I'm making sure that the items are staying in order by their number. So now again with the second box, I moved some of the items over and I have some room left here. I hope I demonstrated that right. Basically, you're just always moving everything over to the left to cover the extra space. And in the end, after going through an inventory consolidation process, you should end up with a few extra boxes that you can then reuse for new inventory. For me, this inventory system is basically all pros and no cons. It's pretty simple and easy to teach to others. As I've mentioned throughout the videos, it's me, my son, and my daughter who take care of all of these steps, and that is super helpful for when I can't get to it. They will help with it. When I was in the hospital and I had my baby, all I had to do was worry about sharing my closet, accepting offers, answering questions on Poshmark and eBay. All of my items were listed on list perfectly, so my daughter would go in and cross list items, and my son was here at home and he was able to ship out those sales for me. But maybe for you there are some cons. I guess it depends on the type of inventory you're selling. If you're selling fragile items or home goods, maybe they're too bulky to store in an inventory system like this one. Maybe some of the concepts will still apply, but not all of them. But if you're selling small items, clothing, or shoes, this is a good one to try out. If you have any questions that I did not get to, go ahead and leave a comment down below. And if you're looking to up your shoe sourcing game, I'll leave a video right here. There I share 20 of the most profitable shoe brands I sell all of the time. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.